Week one of NBA free agency is in the books, and a lot has happened. What's going to happen in week two? We're going to preview that and talk about some of the deals that have been made and are pending on today's edition of the All NBA Show. What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All NBA Show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/AllCity. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Marc Stein, from the Stein Line, where he has been breaking all the latest reports and trade news for the last week. Marc, how you doing?
Adam Mares, I see somebody in chat is saying we're late.
Are we?
I didn't think we were late.
I thought we were on time.
I thought we were pretty prompt. It has been, I have to confess, I made all my usual calls and fired off all the requisite texts today. But today, I did not write. Today, I watched the beautiful game.
You earned it.
There were two amazing games in the World Cup.
Yeah.
And actually got to watch Inglaterra, Mexico from the Azteca with my son. My youngest is home. My oldest is not, but my youngest is home.
Oh, how fun.
So I made an executive decision that I'm going to report and watch these ridiculous games.
I don't think we're late. We're like on soccer time, stoppage time. It's just an estimate. We're just guessing about
we waited. We waited till midnight Eastern, so it is officially Monday.
That's true.
We are 12 hours away from the moratorium being lifted. And that will lead to a flurry of announcements. And I am irrationally excited for transactions to start being announced, because what tends to happen is deals get combined. Like again, this is a minor thing, but like we know Detroit is trading Isaiah Stewart to Memphis. We know Dallas is absorbing Santi Aldama from the Grizzlies. We know that Dallas is going to absorb Marcus Sasser from Detroit, John Collins, the Clippers. Is it possible that some of those moves get combined into one huge trade? Like 2 years ago, the Klay Thompson sign and trade to Dallas ended up being a 6-teamer. Maybe someone in chat can help me look this up. I want to say we had a 7-teamer last year. Might have even been the Durant deal that became the Durant to Houston deal. Might be the one that became a 7-teamer to set the record. So that there will be some of that some of these moves get combined. The cap guys on all these teams get very creative. So I'm excited. Yeah. I'm excited for nerdy stuff like that.
In your experience, do you think those things usually are planned out, or all the deals happen and then the bookies look around?
I think all the things happen. And then the cap experts from the team start saying, "Hey, wait a minute. Why don't we make that? Why don't we join forces here? Because it creates trade exceptions for teams. Maybe it prevents a team in the deal from having to send out or absorb salary that they'd rather not." So, and so I would just bait. This is not reporting. This is just gut feel. I would expect at least one or two surprises tomorrow where we see a couple deals that, were portrayed as singular transactions and then they get melded together, which good stuff.
Yeah. And then of course, like you said, it can change some circumstances for some teams and maybe even prompt more moves because you end up with a little bit more flexibility than you expected, or you need to accomplish something that you didn't anticipate. So that's the story for coming up here in the next day. Probably not coming up in the next day is the LeBron James announcement. And it is funny on one hand, because I think people are both very excited and into this story and also kind of get the sense that it's going to get dragged on. There have been some reports that this will drag on for, could be even weeks, maybe who knows, maybe even months. But where do we stand right now with LeBron? Where are things and what do you think the next turn is in the story?
I think the most definitive thing we can go on is Rich Paul publicly saying this is unlikely to go fast.
Yeah.
And I know when I'm talking to teams, like there is a great deal of curiosity among what you would call the chasing pack. Will there be an opportunity for meetings? Does LeBron James even want meetings, or would he rather that Rich handle all the communication, bring all the info to him, and LeBron makes his choice. So I think teams are wondering how much direct communication will there actually be with LeBron James. Something else to watch for this week that I hear teams openly wondering about. The Las Vegas Summer League begins Thursday. Now, given the amount of attention on LeBron James, does he want to drop into the gym as he has been known to do?
It'd be so good.
Or would he rather stay away from that? Because let's just, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to paint a scenario that you would love. I was actually going to use Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra for this example, but let's just imagine.
Let's make it Denver.
On Friday, we're at the Thomas and Mack.
Yeah.
And Josh Kroenke and David Adelman, maybe even LeBron's good friend Jared Dudley is with them.
Why not?
And all of a sudden, Rich Paul and LeBron enter the arena together. They see Josh, who they've openly, Rich Paul has talked about it. LeBron has talked about it. They love Josh. Do they go sit with him for a few minutes? I mean, no one will be watching the game at that point. The whole gym would be watching. Now, again, that is, I don't know that that's going to happen.
Right.
But that's something that I've heard talked about this weekend. Will that take place? Or is LeBron, would he rather just stay away from the spotlight and let all this conversation, mount and grow? Because this was an incredible weekend if you are a soccer fan. But I promise you, Monday morning, when ESPN launches into its array of shows, LeBron and LeBron's future will be every other segment. I'm going to go out on a limb and make that prediction.
Well, I got to say, man, the Rich Paul segment on his show with Max Kellerman over the weekend with the whiteboard, sometimes these things can annoy me. They can be obnoxious. Unbelievable content. As somebody who makes content for a living, I was so into this idea of really looking at all of the different teams. But I got to be honest, as much as I'm enjoying this story, I'm so extremely skeptical that this is real, that there really is a decision to be made and we're really weighing the options and teams can interview. Am I right in my skepticism? Is it really as open?
No, I think this is a mechanism you've adopted to try to protect yourself.
Yeah,
in the event that there is a tweet that says the Nuggets are no longer in the running. And I will say this, based on where we are as of, 12:08 Eastern on Monday, the Sixers, the Timberwolves, the Heat, your Nuggets, based on everything I've been told all weekend, they all still believe they're in with the chance. I think the Warriors were portrayed as an early favorite, not the early favorite, an early favorite, because they were the team that we knew was determined to go after LeBron if he parted with the Lakers. We had known that for weeks leading up to LeBron and Rich Paul actually informing the Lakers, yes, we are definitely moving on. We're going elsewhere. And then obviously you got the hometown Cavs. So those are the 6 teams that people are talking about. But look, all of my reporting on this, I am taking my cues from these teams in the chasing pack. When it comes to LeBron, Rich Paul has done a lot of talking. I'm taking on board what he says. I'm not going to try to get in LeBron's head because I can't do that. I can't tell you what LeBron is really thinking, and I suspect really only he and Rich Paul and his family know if there is an absolute favorite. If there, you said, are you skeptical that he already knows how this is going to turn out? Only they can know that. But the teams that are in this, they all still believe as we speak that they are still in this.
And a lot of these teams still have major decisions to make, including, and maybe especially the Cleveland Cavaliers. You look at Miami Heat, they're still building a roster and trying to figure out what it is. And so when I put this all together and say it's not going to be quick, it could take a while. And then you see these teams are kind of in a holding pattern. I'm thinking, how do these teams manage this? Is there a team that's going to blink first and say, we don't think we're in it, we just have to move forward? Or could all 6 of these teams we're talking about really be waiting and making plans and setting the table, but not moving on them until they get word from LeBron?
Well, look, there are some unsigned free agents that teams in this chase would like to sign if they're not going to get LeBron. Like, obviously, Golden State would make other moves if they get word that LeBron has another team in mind. You know, the way I described it on Saturday, Jake Fisher and I joined forces on a 2,000 or 2 zillion word notebook. I don't remember what it was, but it was pretty long for a July 4th, I would say. And the way it was laid out to me repeatedly is that more and more these other teams see Cleveland as the scenario to beat, because if you want LeBron, you're going to have to convince him your situation is better than Cleveland's, because Cleveland offers the storybook ending. Cleveland really offers the only storybook ending out there, unless he knows he's going to win a title with one of these teams. And I don't think anybody in the discussion, including Cleveland, can guarantee that just by adding LeBron James, they're going to win it all next season. So the Cavs do have the storybook ending advantage. And also, they are in the East. And you put LeBron on that team, there's going to be other moves. That roster is not going to look exactly the same way it does now. But you add LeBron James to that group with whatever, Schroeder, Strus, what happens with them, they're going to be in the get to the finals mix in the East. But as I said, all the other teams, including your Nuggets, the Heat, the Sixers, the Wolves, they are operating under the belief as we speak at, what is it now? 12 Eastern.
Just ticking away.
That they're still in the game. Now, are they informed at some point in the near future? Like, again, now I'm just guessing process, and I don't want to do that because, really only Rich Paul can answer that one. And to this point, I don't think that's been said. But look, like this week, Summer Leagues have already begun in California. There's the Salt Lake City Summer League is back as well.
Yeah. But
the whole league will be in Vegas by Thursday. The whole NBA will be there by Thursday. And you do have to wonder, will all of this continue to play out among reports by ESPN and The Athletic and pests like me, or will we get a surprise appearance from King James? I don't know.
The appearance would be incredible. I'm predicting it. It just feels like the move right now. It is funny how LeBron is such a big story, even going back to Cleveland, taking photos with old teammates.
But let me also say this. Let me also, this is the inverse of 2014. In 2014, LeBron didn't announce he was going back to the Cavs till July 11th, and it really did hold up the whole summer. In this case, 80+% of the consequential business has already happened.
Yeah, it's been a lot of moves.
Maybe more. So, to me, if this lasts another week, another 2, is that so bad that this is going to, this gives us something significant to focus on? I don't. Now, again, I might have a different opinion next week, but, if this takes a week or 2, is that so terrible?
I mean, it does give us stuff to talk about. To your point, there was so much movement last week and high-profile moves, but it does show you LeBron and just his mastery of staying in the conversation, because major pieces have moved, and yet we're talking about LeBron and where he's going to go. But let's move the conversation forward, though, now and talk about one of the teams, my team, Denver Nuggets, who there's a lot around them right now that I think is interesting. They have a lot of interesting decisions. One, nobody really expected coming into the offseason for the Cronkies to pay a second apron and all of the luxury tax payments that would come along with it. And yet there are some reports that they're willing to do it. And perhaps that's spurred on by the fact that LeBron James has included them as the loose list of suitors. You'll spend, I would guess, a second apron tax penalty for LeBron James, which you'd make back.
One would hope.
One would hope. But on top of that, you also have Peyton Watson, who's represented by Rich Paul and Clutch Sports. He is represented. He is a restricted free agent and one of the bigger names in restricted free agency right now. And the latest reporting is that Denver is going to see if a team offers. Go out and get your offer. Will also be open to sign-in trades, which to me makes a lot of sense if you're not going to keep Peyton Watson to go to a sign-in trade. So one, do you believe that the Nuggets really are willing to go into the second apron and are exploring that possibility? And two, what is the latest with Peyton Watson?
Well, Jake Fisher and I, in our Saturday report, we reported that the Nuggets to this point have been resisting trade offers for Cam Johnson. And I think for weeks after the first round exit, the anticipation was that the Nuggets were really eager to trade someone away to create more certain financial flexibility to match any offer sheets that Peyton Watson gets. No trade is materialized. Now, is it because they've made this decision now that they're going to go into the second apron? Or is it because the trade market is just not presenting anything that they like? And if that's the case, that could explain, that could explain why they are where they are.
Which is kind of my hunch here, that you're trying to trade guys away. There's not a market for it. And so if you have to spend this into the second apron in some way, you come out and say, hey, we're actually willing to do it. You're not willing. You just can't get off of the money. That's at least one explanation for this.
And the other, look, restricted free agency never, ever moves fast. It just doesn't. Except Kessler went so fast. Now, why is that? The Lakers put a serious amount of draft capital on the table. And that's the reality. If you want to swipe someone's restricted free agent, you have to overpay. Like, that's the way the system is designed. It's the only way to, quote, make it go fast.
Yeah.
And look, we've heard that the Clippers have interest in Peyton Watson, but they haven't made the moves yet necessary to create the space to go after him. Is that forthcoming? We will see. Another important thing that Jake and I reported Saturday night was we're told that Peyton Watson is seeking north of the $25 million
right
in annual average value that Christian Brown got.
Right.
How far north? I can't pinpoint that exact number for you, but how feasible is that in this marketplace? Like, that's like there's no shortage of teams interested in Peyton Watson, but the reality is only the Nets currently have cap space. The Clippers can create the cap space. You've got a few teams out there who will have exceptions large enough to take him in, but it's not easy. Restricted free agency never, like, it just doesn't, we remember last summer. And so the fact that Kessler's situation resolved so quickly, it does make me just wonder again. This is not reporting. This is more gut feel. Like,
sure,
on Duran, on Watson, like, how fast can those really go when we already saw Kessler move far faster than you normally would?
Well, it wasn't just fast, Mark, that caught my attention. It was favorable for Utah. And part of me wonders, like, when I see the report that Denver is willing to sign him, they'll match any offer, but they're also open to sign and trades. To me, that sounds like scare people away from trying to put us in a tight spot, but work with us, because we saw what happened with Walker Kessler. And if we have to lose some money and we have to get down, we want a Walker Kessler package. We want something that gets us a really nice return. And to me, that's how I would interpret that. Just, again, reading the reports, it seems like Denver sees that and says, okay, maybe that's our best out to this entire offseason is lose Peyton, but get something that we can use in the future.
Yeah, I mean, look, they went into the offseason very clearly saying they could not lose Peyton Watson, because if you want to get better defensively and more athletic, I mean, on your roster, he's the best option to supply all that. So it's, as always in restricted free agency, the determining factor will be how aggressive the external interest is, and that will decide everything. In the Kessler case, you had the Lakers, who were so motivated to make something happen, and you saw a remarkably swift outcome. It's not about teams liking Peyton Watson. A lot of teams like Peyton Watson, but the flexibility, so much flexibility around the league, it's already been used up.
I'm putting you on the spot here, and I didn't prep you for this one, so I apologize, but just your own opinion. Or I should say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how shocked would you be if the Cronkies really did spend deep into the luxury tax, became a second apron team, and we're just, if that's where this is going and they're posturing for that? To me, it'd be a 10 out of 10. I would be surprised.
Cosign.
and that's why this all feels like posturing.
But I mean, when isn't there posturing?
Of course.
Posturing is part of the game, especially in restricted free agency.
Yeah, especially in restricted free agency. All right, let's take a quick break. On the other side, I do want to get your perspective on this Jaylen Brown situation. And more importantly, I want to know what people around the league are saying about it. We've done a couple shows about it, but never talking about what people are saying behind the scenes. So we'll get to that on the other side. What kind of dreams did you have when you were a kid? What did you want to be when you grew up? How about now? Are you thinking about starting your own business or side hustle? Shopify is the e-commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. Shopify even powers the ALLCITY merch store. Shopify's got you covered with website creation, product descriptions, email and social media marketing, and more. They also have AI tools designed to help you maximize sales. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into... with Shopify on your side. Sign up for the $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/allcity. That's shopify.com/allcity. Also want to tell you guys about FanDuel. The biggest stage in world soccer is here, and it's every goal changes everything. This is so fun. I'm the least soccer guy on earth. I'm all in on the World Cup right now. It is unbelievably fun to watch. Right now, FanDuel is giving you a reason to root for every single one. Introducing Every Goal Pays. Bet on a match and get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. That's right. More goals means more bonus bets, and all you have to do is turn on your token. From the opening whistle to the final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/allcity to get started now. Must be 21 or older and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Back here, segment 2 of the All-NBA show. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed. We got Marc Stein. We got Tim Legler, Jason Timpf, and, of course, myself. You never want to miss an episode. All kinds of good content. And we're all going to be in Vegas this weekend, which should be fun. For, like you said, the entire NBA is out there. We'll be out there as well. Let's talk about Jaylen Brown, because this deal happened the day after our last show. So we've done a couple cycles breaking down the on-court fit and these different things. But I'm really curious, because as I look at this team, I can be talked into it. I could be talked out of it. Of course, they're in
talked
the LeBron.
Into it.
What do you mean?
For
I mean,
who?
I'm talked into the move. I think is obviously good for Philly. What I mean is talked into them being like the contender. You know, where do they fit?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Boston.
No. I could be talked into this idea of like Philly. I'm not sure how hard to buy into them. It's a lot of talent, but I'm not sure if I really am buying them as this like tier 1 contender just yet because of some of the redundancies. But what are people around the league saying about Philadelphia and their chances right now as things sit?
I would say days later, people still don't believe it. And I've told you this before. One of my weaknesses, I get irrationally excited sometimes in advance of press conferences, and then we don't really learn a lot at those press conferences, and I'm guilty of hyping them up for nothing.
Yeah.
But tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, Brad Stevens and Bill Chisholm, the new majority owner of the Celtics, they are speaking publicly. They have not been able to address this trade publicly because
That's right.
the moratorium gets lifted at 12:01 p.m. Eastern, so less than 12 hours from now. So Boston has had to take 3-4 days of criticism and heat, and just they haven't been able to say a word. You know, they can off the record discuss it, but we have a lot of questions for Brad Stevens, who just happened to be named Executive of the Year like 5-6 weeks ago. Timing of the trade, what the Celtics got back for Jaylen Brown. Why were they in such a rush to do this? He was the centerpiece of their efforts to get Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then very swiftly they turn around and trade him for a player in Paul George, who until word of this trade broke, the working assumption in league circles was that Philly would have to attach draft capital to get anyone to take Paul George on, not because of his quality as a player, but because of the injury history that we've seen in Philly and the contract that he still possesses. So I mean, to me, 4 p.m. Eastern, I will be paying rapt attention to every word that Brad Stevens has to say, because this just it is stunning. Like, why didn't the Celtics say there's a lot of hurt feelings here? Can we mend the fences? Now, the realistic answer might be that the only way the fences could have been mended were if the Celtics offered Jaylen Brown the 140 plus million extension he would have been eligible for in Boston. Remember that he's not only made Jaylen Brown not only has 183 million over the next 3 seasons left on his contract. This summer, he was going to be eligible for a 2-year extension at 70 plus million a year, and he wanted that extension. And so if the Celtics know he wanted the extension, they must have decided, okay, we just can't continue. We're going to have to do this. But like, it's still, what could they not have waited 2 weeks? Could they not have waited a month? Was this trade not going to be there? And again, I might be setting us up for disappointment, but the media assembled at this press conference will ask all these questions, and I can't wait to hear the answers.
I think you're right. I mean, they have to, I don't want to say grill them, but there's just so many things to know. And to me, from the outside looking at as this happened, it does seem like they were in a hurry to move him. Not they could have been patient. They could have done this. Like they were determined to do it. That's just what it seems like. And is that the word? I mean, not just reading the tea leaves, but it seems like this was not just we could have been more patient. It's like they wanted to get this done.
I'm sure what they're going to say or at least intimate is they were worried maybe that Jaylen was going to make a public trade demand after his name was put in. Yeah, his name is so out there for Giannis. And then that makes it even harder for the Celtics to move off him. Listen, this Brad Stevens has made a lot of sensational moves since he moved from coaching to the executive space. He was a very highly regarded coach, and he's been named executive of the year twice already since moving to the front office. He has made many more good moves than bad, but this one is just a stunner for what they got back, and even more so just how quickly it happened. And I'm all in on hearing what they have to say tomorrow.
The Celtics organization deserves, in my opinion, a little bit of latitude just because, to your point, they've been so successful. I mean, over the last 5-6 years, they've been as good as anyone consistently, but this is one of those ones that I just don't understand the speed with it and the return. But I'm curious about the other side of it, about Philly's side. Are people talking about them as contenders? Because in terms of raw collection of talent, they have a lot. They also got Simons, by the way, Dean Wade. They had a great offseason on paper, and yet I still look at them and I'm so skeptical. So what is the word? Is there a consensus?
I have not spoken to any rival team that said they shouldn't have done this.
That's a different question.
You can get Jaylen Brown for 2 firsts, 1 of questionable quality, and you're moving off Paul George.
Got to do it.
Even if they're not what you're asking, you do it. You have to do it. And Jaylen Brown, they just got maybe, if we were drawing a list of the most motivated players for the 26-27 season, I don't know that we'd be able to come up with many names higher on the list than him. So they are trading for a very good player, a player scorned. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, Boston and Philly are death rivals. Like, since I was a kid, I mean, the Celtics and the Sixers, like,
throw the Knicks in there with Mitchell Robinson going. The fact that those 3 teams have made trades or signed players from each other just weeks after competing with each other in the playoffs is insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, I still can't believe it, and we've had a few days to get used to it, and it just, like, another fun what if is, Daryl Morey is obviously Mr. Analytics, and you hear people say, would Philly have made this trade if Daryl Morey was still there? And I think yes. Even Daryl Morey, no matter what the analytics say, would have done. Like, there's no way if you're Philly, you can't take this opportunity and see where it leads. And, they have, their young guards are electric and so good. And, I mean, realistically, Embiid would be just as hard to trade because of his contractual situation. So now it's almost like, is Embiid, he's just a bonus. When he's good, he can give you something, and if he's not, you still have a pretty strong team without him. Like, I can't imagine. What would the downside be from the Philly side? I don't think you can come up with one.
There's no downside. I just am more curious. Like, you said that you think 80%, of the moves have already happened. I think it might be a little higher than that. But whatever. 80%.
And 99% of the post-trade convo has been focused on the Boston side.
Right.
Why did the Celtics do this now?
So surprising.
Why didn't they try to mend this thing? Why,
it seems like they didn't want to.
Was this really the best offer they could get?
Yeah. I mean, that's the huge question. And what about them? They acquire some assets, but now their roster is in question. Do people around the league get the sense that they're another team that is now in the same position as these other ones we're talking about with LeBron, waiting to see what their next move is?
Knowing them, would it surprise you if they have a follow-up trade? No, it should not surprise you. They've been very aggressive since Brad Stevens moved to the front office. But like I said, I really want to hear what they have to say and then go from there and try to figure out what the next steps are, because I think we're still missing some variables here.
Well, here's one last one for you. And I didn't really prep you for this one, but I think it's just general conversation. It has to do with Jaylen Brown and also with Peyton Watson, which is restricted free agency is always tough because it sucks. It's always unbalanced and often unbalanced against the player. But teams have also tried to keep the status quo with players. You don't want to make a guy mad or this or that. But I wonder if we are in a different era of the NBA now with this new CBA, where it's not, look, we can screw you over, but we're only going to screw you over a little bit because you're our guy and there's loyalty and we just want to keep everybody happy. And I wonder if we're getting into this new CBA where when you have an opportunity to use leverage against a player, now it is essential for you to really leverage that, not half leverage it, but full. And I do wonder with Peyton Watson and Jaylen Brown if they are the earliest examples of it's in both teams' best interests to squeeze those players in a way we don't usually see with restricted free agents.
Well, the Duran negotiations were always going to be uncomfortable because his regular season and his postseason were just so at odds, whereas he was all-star and all-NBA quality in the regular season, and he just didn't play anywhere near that level in the playoffs. And so the Pistons naturally want to sign him for a much lower number than his max. And how can Detroit now manufacture an offer elsewhere? The Kings, to my knowledge, have not shown any interest in doing, the Sabonis move. And so they want to retain Duran, but how is Duran going to generate an offer for himself? And,
but if he doesn't get an offer,
then that obviously gives the Pistons a major advantage.
But teams haven't always pressed that advantage. They've pressed it lightly. Like, okay, you wanted this, press it a little bit.
I feel like in recent years, what we've really seen is more and more players taking the offer in October. Remember, in the rookie scale extensions, you can do an extension up to the day before the season, and then if there's no deal before opening day, you become a restricted free agent. That's what happened with Kessler, Duran, Peyton Watson, Tari Eason. More and more and more in recent seasons, you're seeing players take the rookie scale extension, even if it's at a lesser number, because restricted free agency has always been brutal for the restricted free agents, and it's just, there's no cap space out there. It is not fun. And, yes, I do think I know what you're saying, and there does, like, Duran is a huge piece of that team. By all accounts, Cade Cunningham loves him. So, like, you can't just have really contentious negotiations and then everybody forgets about it when training camp starts.
Right.
So there does have to be some level of civility here. But, I mean, the only option Duran would have is to play out next season on a qualifying offer, and then he becomes unrestricted.
But what a risk that is. What a risk.
It's a gargantuan risk. And we say it on the outside, we make it sound so easy.
No way. Players
don't want to do that. Like, that is like, anyone who does that, is really gutsy.
And you're talking about you can get $100+ million deal. You want to be a lot more than that, but squeezing a player sometimes is still offering them $22 million a year, something like that. But it's still squeezing to the upside a player is hoping for. And by the way, we just saw Tari Eason. I think it was 4 years, $81 million that he got. Immediately takes to Twitter, and I can't remember what his caption was, but expressing discontent in the immediate aftermath of signing it. And that's what I mean. Teams might just say, look, we'll take an unhappy player for a deal that really is favorable to us rather than just try to keep everybody happy and feel like a family.
I mean, remember last summer you heard so much that Kuminga, he might take the qualifier, he might take the qualifier, he might take the qualifier. It even went a day into training camp, and finally they came up with a deal. So it's like
he's a good example.
You're asking players a lot to do that. Like that is a tough route.
Any other final thoughts before we get to these super chats? Anything else we didn't discuss that you're eager to talk about?
I think we got to most of it, but let's see. What do you got in super chat land?
Let's see what the people are saying here. Sports Comedy Hip Hop says Braun plus Joker 2019 to 2028 playoffs gives both 1 to 3 more. So this was LeBron. If you remember, the Nuggets under Tim Connelly's regime wanted to get a meeting with LeBron right before he signed with the Lakers. There was no meeting. That didn't go anywhere. And he's saying, yes, if that would have happened, people didn't know quite what Jokic was at that point, the average player. But yes, I think they would have done pretty well for themselves. What do you think?
I want to stress, this is read, this is forecast, this is not reporting. This is me just like analyzing the situation. I would imagine if I were in LeBron's shoes, going east would be more appealing if I'm making this purely about basketball. A big reason why the Warriors were seen as having such a strong case before this process even started was because we know LeBron loves Stephen Curry. He loves Draymond Green. He's played for Steve Kerr already at the Olympics. There's a comfort level there. And if he goes to the Warriors, you can't, quote, commute from San Francisco to LA.
Sure, LeBron, you can.
But it's close enough that he could keep his family in LA and make repeated returns to LA during the season. And at least he is somewhat close to the home base that he has been for the last 8 years. Let's not forget his 8 seasons with the Lakers. It's the longest LeBron has been with any one team. But again, this is like, I imagine playing with Jokic has to be hugely interesting and appealing to him when he thinks about it. But I think you can make the same case about the Warriors with their players and coach, and I think Minnesota as well, to play with Ant. You heard the way Rich Paul talked about Chris Finch and Tim Connelly in that podcast on Friday with Max Kellerman. So again, when we get on this topic, I'm just like everyone else who has watched Rich Paul go through the whiteboard options and giving my best read my best read on how they would intake all the options. And I see questions. What about Philly? Yes, obviously Philly is now talent laden. And look, let's not also forget he is incredibly familiar with Spoelstra, Giannis and Bam. So that's another team in the East he's got a comfort level with. So my sense from just, again, trying to analyze everything we do know, it appears LeBron is going to have to figure out what total package makes the most sense to him in the event this is the final chapter. Now, if you heard Rich Paul said who said it's his last year? Maybe he plays more. So they're saying even that hasn't been decided. But if this is the final stop, like I do think that is going to be a big part of it. LeBron's going to have to decide, do I want to go out a Denver Nugget? Do I want to go out a Timberwolf? Do I want to go out as a Heatle? Do I want to go out as a Sixer? Do I want to go out as a Warrior? Again, that's why I think the Cavs do have that poetic ending part of it to offer. But it's not just that. Like, they're going to be a factor in the East with him. I think the Knicks obviously have to be taken as, they are the favorites to win the East next season. But Indiana will be back up there, provided that Halliburton and Zubac bounce back from injuries.
Toronto
has obviously made a massive statement.
Toronto's going to be great
by adding Kawhi. But I think you would still say there's more potential to win 3 rounds in the East than getting through a West that still has the Spurs and the Thunder at the top of it.
Yeah, I think to me, I think the conferences have evened out a bit, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. What's the next one we have here from Ryan Lucas? He says, seems Kuminga LA hold up his sign and trade. Guess on outcome. What do you think of Kuminga? What are the tea leaves saying?
Yeah, guessing on outcome is never a good idea for me. So all I can say is the Lakers are trying. The Lakers want to add a wing. They want to add a big man. All indications at this point suggest there's really no way to retain Rui Hachimura. And to this point, unless something dramatically changed today and has not revealed itself yet, the Lakers have made a lot of attempts to pursue Kuminga. Let's see if that's how it turns out. I think the Lakers might have to make another move or two for additional financial flexibility if that's the case. But Kuminga is one of those players who kind of is somewhat stuck waiting for LeBron, because multiple teams interested in Kuminga are in the LeBron mix as it stands.
It'll be an interesting one. Benjamin here. Benjamin Loudly says, this is a good question. $20 super chat, by the way.
$20.
Benjamin. Shout him out, man. Do the players have enough leverage to eliminate the apron system in future CBA negotiations with what's happened in the previous few weeks? I feel like they honestly didn't think they would already be affected like this. I love this question because I think the CBA is working swimmingly for this parity era that I think Adam Silver wants. And quite frankly, I enjoy like the fact that these teams can rise and fall. I think it's exciting, but I'm not sure if the players are going to love it as time goes on, because I do think there's a middle class getting squeezed here in the NBA. So what do you think?
Ever since the new CBA came in, we've had lots of people from front offices and player agencies say this is a hard cap. It is. This operates like a hard cap. When Jim Dolan is saying he will not go into the second apron, these are the free spending Knicks who've never been shy about crossing any luxury tax line. When they say they're not willing to go into the second apron, what does that tell you?
The week of the parade, no less. It wasn't that's the moment when you're most feeling it and might say something crazy.
This is a hard cap. And then you had Kyle Kuzma come out, I think Friday, with from the player side, as loud and strong a denouncement of this system as you've ever heard. And so that question, the super chat, is what a lot of players and agents are asking. And that is always that once something gets established, once the aprons come in, getting them out, we could probably figure out Duran and Peyton Watson and their restricted free agency before we could figure that out. So I do not like their chances of getting the aprons removed. Now, could there be tweaking? I think there is, can there be some exceptions brought into the next collective bargaining agreement where hometown teams get a break trying to re-sign their own guys? Right. I think that's something that has to be looked at. But the NBA is ruthless. And that's some of the stuff that Kuzma was talking about in that post. They bring in just this array of elite lawyers, and there is no let up. So if aprons are already in the CBA, they're not going to be just happily removing them.
I think one thing that's clear about this CBA is it is great for owners, because it is this cap that the owners are just not going to go over. So it almost limits, it protects you from yourself about we can only spend this much. It saves owners almost from spending. But it doesn't mean it's necessarily bad for players or the league. But it is something that I think is clearly a win for owners who are now protected from having to spend a bunch of money to keep a thing going. So we'll see how it works. We got one more here, and it's from Charlie Saturday. He says,
Unbelievable.
Bucks really stuck with payday promise for Trent? ? I guess he's thinking, did they make a pinky promise to Trent that now they have to fulfill?
Oh, the talk has been that Trent going back there is the most likely scenario, but it hasn't happened yet. So I will put my hand up and say I got to dig more into that one to see where that stands. In all candor, I haven't heard a lot of Trent talk this week, so I'm going to have to. I apologize to my good friend Charlie Saturday, who now will follow up with a super chat in tomorrow's DLS show denouncing me for not having an answer. But I'm gonna have to get back to him on that one.
All right. Well, you always get back to us, man. You always do. He is going to be with DLLS, and then, of course, this weekend we'll be in Vegas together. And in between that, then and now, you never know what's going to happen in the NBA. That's what makes it so exciting. I am looking forward to the Boston Celtics press conference tomorrow. And if news does break here in the next couple days, Mark and I are going to hop on the horn again and do this with you. If there's a big enough story, we'll hop on and do it with you. So make sure you're subscribed to this channel.
If LeBron chooses the Nuggets, we'll probably talk about it.
Hey, man, it might be a 3-hour show. I'm not going to let you go. I'm just going to be sitting here smiling the entire time. One came in at the buzzer here, Atticus. We can get it in real quickly. He says, rumors say Cavs trade Ja and Strus and Dennis for AD. I don't. You got your response right there.
You're going to have to
response.
We appreciate the super chat, but I will need. We need something a little more definitive than rumors say.
Rumors say, man.
Rumors say I can eat whatever I want, and I'm going to lose 25 pounds this summer. But
rumors
I don't.
Say.
But I don't know that that's actual. That's actually how it's going to go.
Rumor says, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button, leave a comment below. We always see those, and enjoy yourself. We'll see you guys again later this week.
We all silly like the mayor.